jump right ahead from the up. There's plenty of space left. Aga nüüd ma liigun eesti keele peale üle. Tere tulemast kõigile. Minu nimi on Noora Sööt. Ja me oleme kogunenud siia Narva kolledžisse noorte kongressiks. Mul on nii rõõm ja nii suur rõõm näha, kui palju teid tegelikult siin on. Et see ruum on hiiglaslik. Ja ma mäletan, kui ma käisin siin võib-olla paar kuud tagasi. Ja ma tegin teile ühe introvideo, kus ma ütlesin kuskil, praegu Elisaveta istub. Ja ütlesin, et näete kõiki neid kohti siin minu segadega. Tule täitsi ära. Ja näed, tulite, täitsitegi ära. Aga noortekongress. Noortekongress teemaga mitmekeelsus avab uksed. See ei ole tavaline kongress. See ei ole tavaline igav seminar, kus te istute ja kuulate, kuidas keegi panelistidest räägib. Pärast, kui küsitakse, kas on küsimusi, siis on juba kõht tühi ja joogijanu ja tahaks ruttu siit toast välja saada. Meil on täiesti teistsugune kongress. Siin on teil kõigil võimalus kaasa rääkida, kaasa mõelda ja see korraldust tähendab siis seda, et meil on 3 paneeli.
The 3 panels will be multilingualism, what is it about, how to achieve it, what are the challenges related to multilingualism, and what are the opportunities it awards. Each panel is made up of 3 parts. Introduction, where wonderful, wise panelists will give us a brief introduction into the topic. And then you will be given the opportunity to answer questions so that those who later will be discussing the topic will know who is in this hall and will be able to discuss together with you. And after the discussion, we'll have a summary and 3 panels in succession. But I'm not standing here alone. There's somebody else standing next to me. Welcome. My name is Mihkel. I was born in Canada and I work there as a business development specialist in the Royal Bank of Canada. And I'm here with Noora today and we are the moderators. We will help move the discussions along. So welcome to everybody. I'm glad to see all of you here. And we have another 4 people, young people, sitting at the ends of the rows who will stand up for a second. Please stand, our assistants, so that everybody can see who are the assistants. So we have 2 here, and they are the ones who will be bringing the microphone. So you'll know who to look at when you need the microphone. But before we get to the substance of the matter, we have a guest here. We are welcoming here the President of the Republic of Estonia, Alar Karis. Everybody is on the other side of the room. Okay. Dear friends, I am extremely happy to welcome you in Estonia and to be a part of the ESTO Youth Congress, the congress that has brought us together today, not in Tallinn or Tartu, but in the city of Narva, where many of you might be for the very first time. But based on the sea of hands, I noticed that many of you have visited Narva before. Narva is a border town for Estonia and also for Europe. But what does a border mean? A border is the beginning and the end of things simultaneously, an entry and an exit, which, like many things in this world, is based on mutual agreement. Today, I'm not going to be telling you about the international situation and world politics, because I see young, alert people, vigilant people who are interested in what is going on in the world. and pay great attention to it. I believe we all perceive the seriousness of the situation, but not hopelessness. In more anxious moments, it's worth remembering that never before in the history of Estonia have we had such good friends and strong allies across the world. Never alone. That's how it is. NATO also begins in Narva. And Narva is the beginning of many beautiful stories. Prior to meeting you, I flicked through a book about outstanding Estonian foreign researchers and scientists, and two stories stood out. The main characters of these stories were born here in Narva. A doctor of medicine, Ilo Gabin, who fled at the age of 22 in 1943 on an autumn night across the Gulf of Finland in a rowboat, making it all the way to Sweden. And a PhD in engineering, Walter Rand, who in 1944, at the age of 30, was no longer able to come back home from Germany and was later a highly esteemed engineer and teacher in Brussels, Karlsruhe, and New York. Both scientists looked further than their own specialty. They never forgot about Estonia. Ilo Gabin was an outstanding surgeon who also dealt with Estonian medical history and collected historical geographic maps of the Baltic Sea region, and was especially interested in his hometown, collecting old photos and plans of buildings, trying to keep alive the pre-war memory of Narva. Walter Rand was a scientist in engineering who worked in the Estonian, German, French, and English cultural space and had a very wide perception of the world. In addition to sciences, Walter Rand was also interested in philosophical issues, like the connections between order and chaos in science, technology, and art. And hereby it's worth mentioning that both scientists had great command of languages. Ilo Gabin spoke Estonian, Finnish, Swedish, German, English, and French, which opened up a cultural space that was not that well known in the Nordics at the time. In 1945, Walter Rand went to live in Belgium, and in 3 months he learned French so that he was able to read newspapers and to have a bit of a conversation. In Karlsruhe, he acquired German, English in New York, and, of course, he had Estonian in his pocket. Well, we may presume we know the kind of French Walter Rand spoke at the beginning of his period in Belgium, and I think Ilo Gabin's French learned in Stockholm probably wasn't impeccable, but you need to start somewhere. And the same applies to you. Dear youth, I have lived in a foreign language environment several times myself, and I know what it means to live in another language environment. All these periods of time have taught me that you should not avoid communication because you're afraid to make mistakes or to speak in a foreign accent. This, my dear friends, is a baseless fear. We are all imperfect, and everybody's language sounds slightly different, even in our mother tongue. The best way to establish contact with a language is to speak it. Be courageous and don't leave this opportunity unused while you're in Estonia. Just one word, tere, will open many doors for you while you're here. All of you have your own stories, your own story of Estonia. These stories may differ greatly, but they all begin here in Estonia. What is your story like? What led you to where you are currently? Did it start with your parents, your grandparents, great-grandparents? Is it a story of flight or opportunities that opened up in the big wide world? Inevitability or free choice? Fear or love? Listen to each other's stories and share your story. And if you haven't done so yet, then look into the story of your family. Talk to your parents and your grandparents. Don't postpone these discussions. Ask them now, while you still have people to ask. Because the more we know, the more we see. And the more we see, the more we understand. And a living example of this is our meeting place today, Narva. Prior to World War II, Narva was the pearl of the Nordics with its Baroque old town, cultural life and people. It was a town of trade and merchants, factories and workers. And in the streets you heard Estonian, Russian and Swedish. Narva was and is multilingual and diverse, as are you. And Narva is currently experiencing a rebirth in cultural terms, architectural terms, and linguistic terms. Who knows, sees. Dear youth, Estonia is not closed off in its geographical confines. Estonia lives in Estonians and friends of Estonia across the globe. The task of beacons is to make sure that everybody knows where the home harbor is. Our spiritual beacons, Estonians, are located across the world. Estonia begins with you. You are the beacons of Estonia. But to affirm this, what should you bring along from Estonia? Bring along new friends and acquaintances, good ideas, a memory of Narva, and the feeling you will experience at the Song and Dance Festival. Moreover, take along an Estonian language book. This year, 500 years has passed from the beginning of Estonian literature. Let's celebrate the year of the book together by reading. In this way, you'll always have a friend who will speak Estonian to you, wherever you are located. Dear friends, going never needs to be unidirectional. Live where you want to live, where your family lives. Work where you can use your talents, but know that the door to Estonia is always open to you. Come study, come join conscription, come visit, or establish your true home here. All these doors are always open to you. I wish you a wonderful Youth Congress.
Aga alustamegi siis või?
But let us start. That was very well said. Thank you very much, Mr. President. So first of all, I would start with the topic of what is multilingualism. Here we have Mari-Liis Korkus and Diana Vender. So I'd like to give the floor to you now.
Tere kõigile, tere lugupeetud härra president, linnapea,
Mr. President, Madam Mayor, Madam Minister, dear organizers, I'm very happy to be here before you and provide the introduction to the topic of multilingualism. If we were to answer the question, it means that you speak more than one language, and that should be at the end of it. But no, that's not quite it. It is a very multifaceted topic. So if we were to imagine that somebody is next to me who is called Maria, Maria's mum is Estonian, father is Russian, but the parents speak English to each other. And so Maria grows up that she learns Estonian, Russian and English. So if we were to imagine that on the other side is with Alex, and both his parents speak Russian, and he grows up with Russian language, then goes to the kindergarten learning Estonian, school, basketball, that's where he learns Estonian, and later goes to work in an international company where their daily communication is in English. So therefore, he also learns Estonian, English and Russian. So my question to you, Maria and Alex, is the multilingualism exactly the same? Can you tell me? So you could say that both Maria and Alex are multilingual as people. And so we can talk about different types of multilingualism. One is a simultaneous multilingualism, so that means that you've been acquiring all the languages since birth. And the other one is consecutive multilingualism, where you learn one language and then you acquire other languages. So both routes to multilingualism are equally valuable. And it's important to understand that the language development depends greatly on the environment, especially if the environment is supportive. So here, when it comes to children, it is very important to have the support of parents. So if the parents have a positive attitude to languages, then it's quite likely that the children will share the attitude. So if the parent does not speak a language, but that doesn't mean that they cannot support the child, because they can listen to the child, they can offer different opportunities to use the language and to encourage the child. So we can talk about individual and societal multilingualism. So on an individual level, it means that you use different languages depending on the situation. For example, for a child, it could be that at school you speak Estonian, at home Russian or Swedish, but when you're playing computer games, you play them in English. And they can choose a language which will match the situation. Societal multilingualism means that in the society we have different languages around us. In Estonia as well, in addition to Estonian, there are many other languages as well, Russian, Ukrainian, English, Swedish. And multilingualism doesn't mean that you would speak all these languages proficiently on the mother tongue level. As adults, we often use different types of languages in different situations. When I'm at work, I use Estonian. At home, I speak Russian, but with friends, I might be speaking English. So it's kind of a functional multilingualism. So because these languages fulfill different roles in my life. So often we hear that if we talk about multilingualism, we hear about different myths. So I'll like to discuss top 5. First, if you study more than one language, then they can mix up the languages. Have you heard this? But in reality, children are very good in separating the languages when they're already very young. So if you mix up languages in one sentence, you use more than one language, starts in one language and ends the sentence in another language. This is quite a natural phenomenon which is called code switching. And it means that both languages for the child are active. My child, who is 2 years old, understands Russian and Estonian, understand what is being said, but they can't understand in one language, so uses both Russian and Estonian words. Next, there's a myth that multilingualism is only for the very talented people. But there is no such thing as a gene for multilingualism. We can all be multilingual. And it's natural, especially if your environment fosters it. In Estonia, we use 2 or 3 or more languages on a daily basis. And it doesn't mean that you are somehow more or greater, but it just shows your adaptability. Then, if you don't speak all the languages perfectly, then they're not perfectly multilingual. But as we said before, many people who are multilingual speak other languages in different levels, and one language can be stronger in speech, one in writing, a third in passive comprehension. And it does not mean that you would not be multilingual. It's a multifaceted aspect of the use of language. Then, if the child makes mistakes, then it's a problem with multilingualism. But all the children learn from making mistakes. I don't know anybody who wouldn't make mistakes. When you are monolingual, you also make mistakes, and we learn from our mistakes. So that means we're actively learning. And if we support the child and offer them a good environment, possibilities for using the languages, then there'll be less mistakes made. Then there's also an understanding that multilingualism means that a person never has roots, doesn't belong to anywhere. A person who's multilingual can feel at home in many linguistic spaces, and their identity is not being confused, but it's flexible and multi-layered. You can be Estonian and Russian, a Swede and an Estonian, European citizen, a world citizen. And if we were to ask from somebody who's multilingual, what is your nationality? Then the answer might be that, well, I'm 100% in one and 100% the other as well, not half and half. So then you can talk about the national identity and citizenship identity, which are different things. So they're not necessarily the same, because language does not determine who you are, but rather it can give you a suggestion. Where do you think you belong? So now, if we were to sum it up, then we have lots of people living with us for whom multilingualism is a very commonplace part of the world. And in order to communicate with others, we need to know languages. I believe that multilingualism today is a new reality, and monolingualism tends to be an exception. And now we have a slide of questions. Now you can share your opinion, and you can tell us what are the languages you speak. With your phone, you can open the QR code and write your response. I've heard also these myths so many times. But it was very good to hear them all listed as a summary. So you can see that people speak Estonian and English the most, but you can see that the cloud is growing: Ukrainian, Spanish, French, Polish, Norwegian. Estonian and English are competing for the first place. It's an interesting phenomenon. Where does slang go? And if you're sort of mixing the languages, because if you use both languages, and sometimes it's expression from one language while you speak another language. So I can imagine that if I speak with my sister who lives in Sweden and I live in Estonia, but on the phone, then I mix both languages. So you adapt to the way the other person is speaking. So the same is true for accents. Slang also plays an impact, plays a role, because it's if you can use a slang, then you know how the locals are speaking, so the language is already very perfect. And another one to show you that you're comfortable in a language, which I recently found, is that if you can make jokes in the language, then you actually know the language. We have another speaker about multilingualism. The floor is yours.
Ma loodan, et mind on kuulda.
So it's so interesting to see this multilingual cloud behind me. I believe that it gives a very good backdrop for my introduction. So, dear participants, dear young people, I have the great honor to speak before you today, and I can offer my introduction for the some other surveys we have coming up. As it happens, I also start with examples and stories. I would like to introduce to you two different but similar young people. So first one is Kevin. He's 13, from Sweden, from Malmö. Mother is Estonian and father is Swedish, and he has an older sister. And he grew up in an environment hearing both Estonian and Swedish. But Sweden became a dominant language because that was the language he was using at school and gym with his friends. That's the language he uses with his father and often with his sister. But he's also started to study English, and he found that he likes to read, watch films, listen to music in English. Estonian language use is very specific as a function because that's the language he uses with his mom, sometimes with his sister, and of course with their relatives in Estonia. But older Kevin became, then there was less motivation to use Estonian, and he had less confidence in using Estonian. Why? Because often he said that there were visits to Estonia where the relatives or family friends were criticizing his language because he was using language in a slightly incorrect way, so he was told that, oh, your Estonian is not good. So who wants to use a language which you think is you don't have a good comprehension? The second person is Alina. Alina is from Kohtla-Järve, not far from here, 17. Only child, and both parents were born in Estonia, but use Russian as a mother tongue. So she grew up in a very Russian language environment, went to Russian language kindergarten, school, took place with the language immersion program, where she actually came into contact with Estonian and English a bit more. Studying English was very hard at the beginning, but after she started watching films in English, starting to listen to podcasts, then her language skills also improved. But when it came to Estonian, then she really tried to learn it, wanted to acquire Estonian, knew a lot about Estonian language. For example, it was about all the second and third stress and different slang terms also. But she had no practice because there were no friends or somebody of her own age with whom she could communicate in Estonian. Then she was a bit afraid of using Estonian. So the young people do not know each other, but they're real people, and I know both of them. And it's always been interesting to think, what if these two young people would come together? And I feel that there's so many similarities between them, that these similarities will bring them closer to each other. But if you think about Kevin and Alina, we can get some good advice. For example, multilingualism can be expressed in different forms, and we can't say that there's one clear ideal version. When it comes to language roles and skills, there's also great variability, which is due to different factors: environment, personal motivation, and also linguistic input. And often, especially when it comes to multilingual people, then there's a bit, sometimes you feel uncertain to speak a language because you feel that this is somehow different, but this uncertainty might lead you to you not even using that language anymore. So today we have a lot of different young people. I don't know all of you, but I believe that there are a couple of you amongst you at least who can identify with Alina or Kevin, or maybe both them. But I think the biggest commonality is that most of you are multilingual to a certain extent. We can already see from here that you speak a lot of languages, so this is a confirmation. So maybe before ESTO, some of you would have not said that you're multilingual, but when you leave this Congress, you have a positive emotion that I'm also multilingual. This is also I can identify myself. But I would also like to refer to the question, what can you do in order to maintain multilingualism and enrich your multilingual language package? You probably hope for specific guidelines, some steps, but I can tell you that there is no ideal solution, there is no prescription. Because our attitude to different languages is different. We grow up in different environments and we lead different lives. But today I try to come up with 4 main points. So this is something you can think about and maybe take away with you. First one, so feed not only your mind but also your tongue, because if you have acquired language and you would want our language skills to develop, input plays a very big role. As a good colleague who's also doing the postgraduate degree has said, this input is a feed. If we think we want our body to develop, we need a lot of important nutrients. So the same can be said for linguistic development. For the language to develop, we need to have good input. More we have, more diversities, more enriched our linguistic package becomes. And I would also like to say that the language skill is not only developed as when you're a child, but this development continues throughout your life. When your mother tongue develops, also other languages develop. We have not asked yet what your mother tongue is, but I would like to know. But I believe that we have different languages here. We can see Russian, Estonian, maybe Spanish, Dutch. Latin, I'm somehow doubtful. So maybe some of you have one mother tongue, maybe you have more than one. I have 2, for example. So mother tongue is somewhat random, because in my doctorate degree, I also study foreign Estonian youth. When I ask them to describe the mother tongue, then there are different interpretations of it. For some people, that's the language they speak at home. Then mother tongue is the language of your mother, or mother tongue is the language you speak the best. So there are different definitions somewhat, but I think what characterizes the mother tongue the most is that often we have some sort of sentimental personal attachment, because often we learn the mother tongue through the nearest and dearest, and it's part of our identity. So if you get some certainty that regardless of the linguistic environment, they have the right to maintain their mother tongue, then the motivation to learn other languages will not disappear either. Different studies have shown that more person will enrich their mother tongue, more positive impact it has for the acquisition of other languages. Estonia is strong. We can see other options as well, like South Estonian dialect Mulgi. Then the next idea is maybe somewhat funny, but you can do things alone, but it's better if it's 2 of you. What do I mean? Because in order to maintain multilingualism, it's very important to have personal interest, initiative, motivation, because nobody can force any of them on you, because interest towards a language and development starts from you. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that these are very important components for maintaining a language. If you want to develop your language further, you should not do it alone. Yes, indeed, you can read the books or watch TV, but it is better if you have somebody else that you can share this experience with. I talked about input, and what is most important input is what we mentioned at the beginning, which is communication. Because best we acquire languages through communication, because the first language comes through oral communication. For multilingual young people, I have seen that use of language is being encouraged if they have a friend who speaks the language they would like to develop. So this gives a very good contact, a connection, and it's not only about the parents or about school anymore. And how do you find friends? Different community events are very important. Summer camps, football, board game evenings and community events are not only impacting your language skills, but also they play an important role when you develop your identity. Some of the events are for one region, other events like Congress today brings together people who speak the same language and who come across the world. And now I don't know you, but I would like to know. So raise your hand who's from Estonia.
Me oleme nagu kitsamaks. Kas keegi on siin pärit Kanadast?
Canada.
Rootsi
Sweden.
Tugevalt esindatud. Nii, huvi pärast Hispaania.
Spain.
Ei ole. Prantsusmaa.
France.
Keegi ei ole. Läti.
Latvia.
Okei. Ilmselt on mingid muud riigid veel.
So I guess there are many other countries represented here. So you can see that Estonia is not a small pond. We have Estonians everywhere across the world. So, and you can get support from different organizations, institutions, Estonian House, international networks, and the Estonian, the European Youth Congress, the Global Estonian Youth Network. In Tartu, there are events being held. And I also said less criticism, more encouragement, as we heard from the stories of Alina and Kevin, the attitudes are very important. If you have a negative attitude with the language, then it means that you have less motivation to learn the language and to maintain it. And in today's event, we have main language is Estonian, and I will say that it's very normal to think that your level of Estonian might be very different. Because if somebody who started to study Estonian at basic school and gymnasium speaks it the same way as somebody else who's spoken it entire life, or if you grew up in a different language environment, you don't speak the same way as an Estonian growing up in Estonia. So that means that your language is not full of mistakes, but just different, which enriches the Estonian language and also assures its viability. So we have to have positive attitudes here, personally, as a community, and instead of criticism, we should encourage people. Different studies have shown that multilingualism is a norm and not an exception, and we don't have ideal version of multilingualism. Rather, we have to think that everybody has to find their own route to multilingualism. There is no one clear way how to become multilingual. We have to be open and share our experiences, because somebody's experience can be somebody else's solution. So if Alina and Kevin had met, maybe they would have become very good friends and they would have been supporting each other. And I think this is it. This is the end of my monologue, and I'll pass on the baton so we can continue the discussion.
Super, suur tänu. See oli väga huvitav ka, et
Thank you very much. A number of people have said that making mistakes is actually very important for your language to evolve. I've had many friends who have a good command of Estonian, but they're afraid to speak because they believe that people will point out their mistakes. But that's how you learn. Based on personal experience, I remember that I lived in Sweden my whole life, and then I moved to Estonia to study at Tartu University. And I put things in funny ways. I like to say chocolate, not chocolate. So small details, but Estonians noticed immediately that something is a bit off. And when I said that I'm from Sweden, then for at least a year, those of you who know, so they said, it's Rootsi kunn. So there's such a big story that comes with the language, and that actually gave me an opportunity to open up my story. But now I'd like to give an opportunity to the people here, because we've talked about topics that pertain to all of you. Is there anybody who wants to take the floor and speak a bit about what multilingualism is for you, how you've done in becoming multilingual, and what does it mean for you? Would anybody like to share? I didn't really have a choice. I'm born an Estonian and Hungarian, and plus I learned English. All three, for me, are equally important. I speak them as well as I can, and I have studied some other languages as well, but these three I speak well, and I put together glossaries and synonyms, and sometimes I add something in other languages like Italian and Russian. For me, well, language came about in ancient times. People needed a system to deliver messages. And now we have the kind of languages we have, so many different nations and languages. So it's the very same system that has diverged and changed in different cultures. But in the end, the essence remains the same. And when I look for the same words in different languages, then the more languages you speak, the more similarities you see. So for me, it's one language system, and I'm born on the Finno-Ugric side of the language tree, and of course nowadays you need to learn English. Thank you very much, Arvad. I'd like to pass the floor to one more person. I just wanted to give some words of encouragement to others. When it comes to language, the most important thing is that people understand you and you understand the point. So you can use body language, you can say that everything is good, you can show that everything is good. But my experience is that when I was studying English at school, then I wasn't the best at it. And I was criticized heavily. And I didn't really want to speak English at all. But now I understand that when somebody is looking at me and I'm speaking English to them and they're nodding and have a smile on their face, then they actually understand me, and that's what matters most. So keep talking. That is very true. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would like to thank the President for joining us. Thank you very, very much for these beautiful words. And it is a very important message. I also felt that Estonia is an open door to me, and I've used this opportunity, and I'm also joining conscription. The speaker is not using a microphone.
Microphone, please. Can somebody say loudly microphone to Nora so she can hand it over? Microphone, please. Yeah, but I apologize that the President is not using a microphone.
vaid Eestimaal ja siinsamas Narvas, Tallinnas ja kus iganes te siis toimetate. Nii et olge tublid. Mina pean minema homme Hispaaniasse hommikul kell 4 linnuki peale, nii et eks ma püüan hispaanlane hispaania keeles ära õppida. Mina nimestan, kuidas ungari keelt või kõrgab peale, aga need on. Ilmselt kui vara alustada. Või mitte alustada. No vaat, kui mitte enam. Mina hiljaks jään. Kõik head.
Nii et
Off mic, so you're on your own.
Nii, siis teine osa on siis nüüd väljakutsed mitmekeelsuse saavutamisel.
And now the second panel is about challenges in becoming multilingual. And we have two panelists, Margit-Karina Tarasova from Silla School and Piret Kärtner from Silla School. And one panelist is walking up, and I'll go and check where our second panelist is. See whether the microphone is on.
Jah, aga samal ajal võib siis arutada seda, et mis siiamaani juba räägitud, et kõige lihtsam saavutada mitmekeelsust ongi.
So the easiest way to become multilingual is to talk to each other and to really have this will.
Aga noh, siit tuleb.
So while Piret is making her way here, I can begin. Challenges are great things, and learning a language is a huge challenge. The thinking of somebody who speaks several languages is much more flexible and diverse than somebody who only speaks one language. Dear young people, in the framework of ESTO Days, you have gathered in Narva from across the globe. Your ancestors, for one reason or another, were forced to flee, but they were able to retain their language, their culture and identity. Great respect to Estonian communities abroad. And your roots, dear young people, are tied to Estonia. And for this reason, today I would like to focus on challenges in learning Estonian language. Estonian language ties the Estonian people together. It is our language, which we are very proud of. Estonian language is a value for its speakers everywhere in the world. It's of interest to others and ties us together as a community. But Piret, can you tell us what is the most important thing to acquire a language? Well, to begin, I would actually like to say that I have a very special relationship with Estonian language and being abroad. My grandfather emigrated through Germany to Australia during the World War II, and I have 3 aunts in Australia, Terje, Reet and Kai, and one of them is currently in Estonia as well, and she and her children speak Estonian, and I think that when it comes to learning Estonian or just learning languages, the most important thing is the will, desire to learn it. Sometimes I've attended Estonian classes in Ida-Viru County and Narva, where the teacher starts the class by saying, Estonian language is so hard. And there are about 1 million Estonians, and everybody has come up with an exception out of these 1 million. You don't need to learn one word. You need to learn 28 different words. And I think, really, do you really need to start with language instruction by saying that it's so hard? So everything requires an effort. It's not just for language learning. I don't think there is a skier who hates skiing and believes skiing is so hard, but goes on to win a medal at the World Championships, or somebody who hates playing the piano miraculously wins the Ferenc Liszt piano competition. It's not so. Whether you learn a language or learning to drive, it requires hard work, dedication, making an effort, motivation. That's how things go. It's about priorities. I'm going to use an English term, forgive me, something I've always said to my students.
It doesn't matter whether you say I can or I can't. You will probably be right both ways.
So, do I say to myself, I can manage it, I can learn it, or not? And if you believe you can accomplish anything. But if you don't have this willingness, this readiness, then you probably will not acquire the language. But what about you? What's your experience? Well, first of all, you need to have the motivation and the desire. You have to set goals. And after you've done that, you just move forward, keep going. You have to be consistent and disciplined. And you need to be able to manage your own trajectory of learning. You need to learn every day, even if it's for 15 minutes. Then you see results. Piret, what do you need to consider when you're learning a language the most? Well, I can't really pinpoint what you need to take into consideration when you're learning a language. Probably that you're not alone in the process. That often we are learning a language with someone else. We have the study materials, we have teachers, and when it comes to Estonian language, then nowadays there are so many resources that can help you learn a language. So I want to use the opportunity to advertise two online environments that the government supports, Keele Klikk and Keele Samm. And currently there's a project ongoing that the Ministry of Education is supporting that will probably be called Keele Lend. This is for B2 level study materials, with actual Estonian teachers to give you feedback and communicate with you. So use the opportunities, and EKI homepage, Integration Foundation webpage. There are so many good material sources. And I had this question, what kinds of materials would I recommend? Well, first and foremost, it depends on your level of language and your wishes. It's important to choose the materials that you're interested in and that suit you. Of course, the best thing is to learn a language in the language environment. You come to Estonia, you have friends here, you have an adventure, go to tourism farms, speak in Estonian. But if you don't have the language environment, then nowadays it's no obstacle still, because we live in a digital world and there's a great number of study materials available. So you can learn a language independently with the help of a smart device, a computer, as we heard on the webpage of Integratsiooni Sihtasutus, Integration Foundation. There's a lot of materials. Then we have Keele Tee and Keele Klikk online platforms. And I recommend reading books. Start with children's books. Some people listen to radio programs. Others read Estonian newspapers. Vaba Eesti Sõna, Free Estonian Word, is for the Estonians living abroad. And it'd be great if you found a language buddy who would support you as well. But it's not just learning that supports acquiring a language. Piret, it's a lot of other things as well. What else supports acquiring a language? Using the language in capital letters. A while ago, we heard that people make mistakes when they're learning a language. I was in the UK at a training once where we had to write sentences that all started with the words mistake. And then we had to finish the the sentences, and then they said, instead of mistake, write learning step. And that completely changed the situation. So the teacher's perspective is often, I hate when my students make mistakes. And then when you cross out mistake and write learning steps, do you really hate that your students are making learning steps, taking learning steps? So I think you need to use a language, however many mistakes you make. And if you have good friends who help correct the mistakes, then that is excellent. And, well, Estonian is such a small language, and maybe too focused on mistakes. And grammar, in the broader sense, believe me, young children have no idea about past tense and different types of words. Just let grammar go. Let grammar live its own life. You don't need to think so much about it. You should rather think about using the language as much as you can. I've been in Narva for 3.5 years, and not once have I used Russian in the public space. My mission here is to use only Estonian. People are grateful. They answer me in Estonian, in Russian, or mixed Estonian and Russian, but it's a big step if people can demonstrate that they understand everything what you're saying. And I would like to give an example how important is an objective. A pupil of mine came from Ukraine and has learned Estonian for just 3 years. Worked so well that they attended the Estonian language national competition. And how did this person learn? Just independently. There was a radio program that lasted for 35 minutes, and my pupil said that for the first time they were listening to the radio program for 3 hours, winding back the tape, writing the words out, and the results are excellent, so motivation and desire. But Margit, we have young people here. What would you recommend to them? What would you say to them? Well, I think that language learning, it's wonderful, and I want to say that multilingualism can be achieved. And I would also like to say that when you're learning a language, don't forget to praise yourself. After you've learned something, tell yourself, I'm doing so well, and use the language you've acquired. I have taught Estonian to Russian speakers for 25 years, and I can tell you that multilingualism is achievable, and a great number of my students can confirm this. And the biggest joy when we meet and when we speak, I can speak to them in Estonian. So I wish you wonderful language learning, and thank you for your attention.
I'm not going to let you go yet. There's a slider with questions. So now you can scan the code once again. And so if you could tell me what the question was.
Millised on sinu väljakutsed?
Okay. Aga siin on tegelikult tekkinud üks küsimus on küll.
So there's a question here. I would like to ask, so how can you support and encourage somebody who's trying to learn a language, who is afraid of speaking after criticism and has lost motivation to keep studying? So can you please share some tricks from your experience as a teacher, and maybe somebody here can also recommend some good tips? I would say that teachers' good attitude. So I'm not sure who had said that, but support of the teacher is very important. So that you're not stressed when you're studying, because in life things happen, you have to cope with it, because some people don't like this, other people do, so you just have to overcome this. or find a language friend, so there are some answers as well. Don't be afraid, it's easy to say, but communicate using the language which they are trying to learn. And so language friend is here as well, language buddy is important. And maybe you have some parents, grandparents who are speaking Estonian, so talk to them, find out about their stories. That's also nice. Nice way to learn a language. Thank you very much. Next, I would like to invite here Aljona and Alexander, so two young delegates who are going to share with you their stories. And then we'll have a bit of a stretch.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it's a very special honor for me to speak to you today. I'm here to talk about my journey and my Estonian roots. So, my grandfather was Estonian. He was born in 1924, and during World War II, he fought in an Estonian combat unit. He was seriously wounded, a gunshot right through his left shoulder, near his heart. And he was evacuated in a British ship and eventually ended in the American sector in Germany, where he worked for the US military. I never got to know him. He died, sadly, 2 months after I was born. My dad has remained deeply involved in the Estonian community. He speaks the language. Since his hiring, he spends almost every day reconnecting with our friends from Estonian camps in Sweden and from across the global diaspora. I'm part of the third generation, caught between two cultures. My mother is German, my father is Estonian. And it's no coincidence that we use the word mother tongue. My father was too busy at work to teach me Estonian. All of my Estonian-speaking friends in Germany had at least an Estonian mother. So this year, I decided, well, I'll do it myself. But learning Estonian in Germany is quite hard. There are no schools in my region, no local courses, no everyday encounters with the language. It took me half a year to find the right tutelage. So since April, I've been taking online lessons through Üleilmakool, the global Estonian school online. I study with books, with Quizlet flashcards, but the hardest part is speaking, finding real contact with the language. And yet, this process has become something deeply meaningful to me. I'm discovering a language that has always been part of my life, just out of reach. So sometimes it feels as I'm learning something familiar for the very first time. Because the truth is, I often feel caught between two worlds, not fully German, not fully Estonian. And that is exactly why I'm learning Estonian. Because to me, language isn't just a tool, it's a home. Because I'm not just German, I'm an Estonian who happens to speak German. And because identity isn't just a box you simply tick, it's a voice you grow into. Thank you very much.
Tere, kallid kuulajad.
Dear participants, I was born in Narva and I grew up here. And all the people here, I think about 85%, 90% are Russian speakers. So what I was doing is what every Estonian with Russian mother tongue does, that I was studying Estonian. I studied from kindergarten, language immersion, university. And I study and I study, and I don't know how many T's you have to put in a word like omelette and cutlet. So there have been many challenges. I want to say something in Estonian, but I don't know how to put the sentence together. So I have to know the stress in the word, and I don't know it. I have to read how to read the news, listen to something, and sometimes I just can't be bothered. But still, I'm not going to complain anymore, because I'm more or less okay, I can understand Estonian, and I better focus on what concerns both children and adults today. That means that we are transitioning to an Estonian language school. So if you don't know, the way it works is that in schools and kindergartens, all the studying will take place in Estonian, and the teachers have to have a necessary linguistic qualification. And I would also say that I speak from my own experience, because also I worked as a substitute teacher in kindergartens, and I can have seen how children and adults manage. One of the challenges I've had is acceptance. So you can imagine that if you've been working for 30 years in Russian, and you knew in Estonian only words like gingerbreads and ID code, and now you're being told that you have to start teaching in Estonian, and if you cannot get the linguistic qualification, then you can say hello to the unemployment office. Some accept the situation and some don't.
Ühes lasteaias, kus ma töötasin, suhtles õpetaja lastega eesti keeles. Ja nad kuulasid.
In a kindergarten, I could see that the teacher was speaking Estonian, the children listened and answered, and the teacher was thinking that we'll learn the language, but the teacher was kind of focusing on games and creativity. And in another kindergarten, the situation was different. The teacher's attitude was that, why do I have to speak Estonian to them? Because they don't understand anything. And of course, they didn't understand then, because there wasn't even an opportunity for them to understand. If the teacher indicates that they do not like this entire topic of Estonian language, then the child has no interest towards this new language. So I had the Estonian language cartoons, then one girl asked, can we have it in a normal language, please? If the teacher's attitude is negative, then it makes the children feel that Estonian is something unnecessary. And this is the situation where the language barrier starts from. So if you do not accept that this is what the reality is like, but is fighting against it, then they will not get any results in language learning, and the same attitude is conveyed. So I understand this is not easy, but if you can't change the situation, then you can change your attitude. And of course, what is very important is to have the suitable environment. Of course, everybody attends language classes, but it's not enough. I have noticed that you sometimes study very specific things. For example, if the substitute teacher who is attending language courses and asked, if you're using glue for wallpapering, then I thought that this is not really about language development if you ask very specific detail. So the environment around you is the better teacher. But what do you do if you have nobody around you who speaks Estonian language? And the only possibility for you is to talk to the wall. And I would say, okay, well, give an interview to the wall. It's better than nothing. And if you're not afraid that I'm going to lose if I don't study Estonian, but if you're interested in Estonian, then you find opportunities. For example, language buddies, books, news. It's not that hard. I remember there was a boy whose native language was English, but didn't speak English either. And half a year later, in this kindergarten, he started to speak Estonian, and not because he was studying some specific topics, for example, home renovation, but just because that was the environment around the child. So for studying, you have to leave your comfort zone and be in the environment where the language gets to develop. Language learning is not only grammar or studying vocabulary lists, but it's an attitude,
tingimused,
conditions, preparedness to change yourself
olukorda muuta ei saa.
if you cannot change your situation.
Me peame hakkama mõtlema
So we have to think about it. We have to think about multilingualism not as an obligation, as a problem,
suhtumist,
but as an attitude and opportunities.
eesti keel ei
Because
ole lihtsalt
Estonian
aine,
language
see on
is
osa
not a
meie
subject,
reaalsusest.
it's a
Ja kui
reality.
me tahame selles reaalsuses
So if we
elada,
want to live in this reality,
tuleb teha natuke rohkem kui
then
lihtsalt
we
läbi
have to do a little bit more than just go through a course. We have to make a choice to be present, to listen, to try and to remain open. Thank you.
Ma siia lisaksin, et me noordelegaatidega
When it comes to the youth delegates, then we traveled here from Tallinn.
olime laeva peal.
Yesterday we were on the ship and we had a feedback round where the youth delegates could describe what the impressions were, how have they felt during this festival. And there's one thought I wouldn't have never come up with myself, because one of the youth delegates had noticed one of the most beautiful things for this ESTO festival has been that people really want to learn Estonian. It's not that they have to learn Estonian. So that's a huge difference. If you've grown up in this language environment, I would have thought that I have to learn Estonian. It has been always about wanting to learn it. It's an opportunity, it's part of the process, and it's part of the wider context. So it has been an important notification. And now I'd like to give you the floor as well. Please take out your phones. It's unusual to say to take your phone out. Scan this QR code and let us know. And talk a little bit to your neighbor as well before you answer that what are your challenges. So please have a chat to the person sitting on your right.
Ja ehk siis ma täpsustan, mis on sinu väljakutsed olnud?
What have been your challenges when it comes to multilingualism or achieving multilingualism?
Mida?
Nii, ma loodan, et te olete jõudnud nüüd paar mõtet oma naabriga jagada.
You've been able to share your thoughts.
Siia on tulnud ka ühed vastused.
So we have some answers as well.
Palun jälle tähelepanu siia lava juurde.
So if I could have your attention, I'm really happy that you have a lot to talk about. But now let us look at the screen once again. I'm afraid to say something wrong, and it's funny. I have a lot of experience with that myself. Because there are many friends who want to correct me. But I take it, I'm happy about it, because if somebody says it's you don't say you have wrong palatalization, for example. It's good if you correct me, because I learn from it. It's not somebody's in a hostile or mean, because I want to learn. And I become better, because if I don't know that I'm saying it in a wrong way, I will never learn. And I believe that many have similar experiences, because Estonians do like to correct Estonian, because for an Estonian, language is the most important thing, and it is most important. And I believe that many Estonians said they're not being mean about it, but they just hear something and they want to help you. So they just correct you, but there's no malicious intent. And I think I've never said this before, but we have actually a live stream here. So I'm sure that we have lots more people listening and reading your answers. Sirle was asking me earlier, so what are your challenges because you speak Estonian? And I said, I don't have time to read books, and that's a real challenge because it's so important that you'll be able to write and express yourself. And when it comes to slang, I saw some slang as well. Slang is really cool. I really enjoy Estonian slang. How it adapts to English language. And there are Instagram accounts and social media channels where we have new vocabulary. And it's Estonian translation. It doesn't really have a translation, but there's some explanations. And it's amazing to see how we have people in Estonia who understand that this is not just basics, that you know all these things in English and you can explain them, and you can explain them to parents as well. So now I'd like to give the floor to Sophia.
Tere, mina olen Sophia ja
I'm Sophia, and my situation is that I'm from Narva. My mother tongue is Russian, and at home I speak only Russian. So I studied in basic school 9 years in Russian only, then Estonian as a second language. And so I kept studying, and then at the end of the basic school, I had a choice about going to a gymnasium. So in Narva we have different gymnasia. So I studied in Narva Estonian gymnasium. So it was quite hard. And the first math lesson, and I was sitting there and thinking, what should I do? Because I don't understand anything. And now I'm very happy that I have Estonian friends. And I can talk to them. I'm not afraid of making mistakes. And I think that everything will work out well. Thank you very much. Your experience is fairly commonplace because up to year 6 I studied in French, and then suddenly everything switched to English. Then you're looking at the textbook in math and you can't understand what is happening. And you need to swap to and switch to another language. But you had the courage of doing that, and you also found people who speak Estonian. So I think that's excellent. So I think you speak really well. Thank you very much for sharing. I also recognize myself because I went to an international class in Sweden, so that means I think in Estonian. My teacher speaks English with an Italian accent, and my textbook is in Swedish. So English with an Italian accent, trying to explain to my gymnasium level math, I have to study from a Swedish language book, but I'm thinking in Estonian. So you often had a bit of a meltdown. Anyone else who would like to share the challenges? I was born in Los Angeles, United States, and when I grew up at home, we spoke only English. Because my mother is Estonian, but my parents wanted me to speak English well. So I do well at school, and in English and French as well. I went to French language school. So it was when I was a teenager, and I really wanted to. I kept asking my parents So I wanted to study Estonian. So first of all, the global school, I have a really excellent teacher using Tere textbook as well, Keeleklik online, so all these resources were there. But when I came to Estonia last year, so I was in a language camp and was there for the first time speaking Estonian with children, the other teenager my age. It was so hard because I said write down slang. They were using a lot of slang words, and I had never learned them from a textbook or from a teacher. So it was very difficult for me. So it was a challenge, but I'm very happy to speak with my friends. I also on the ferry, I'm much better because I'm better at slang as well. Yes, there's a very good language camp you attended. If you have a possibility to go to a foreign Estonian camp, it gives it's a good experience. And now we'll have a bit of a break. On the screen here, we have a QR code, so it's Q&A. And so you can ask your questions, share your stories. When you feel that that you don't really want to take a microphone, but then let's just come back in half an hour. Thank you.
I black. I've hit the sack. I've been too long. I'm glad to be back. Yes, I'm let loose from the noose that's kept me hanging about. I've been looking at the sky 'cause it's getting me high. Forget the hearse 'cause I never die. I've got 9 lives, the cat's eyes, abusing everyone I've ever loved. Why? 'Cause I'm back. Yes, I'm back. Well, I'm back. Yes, I'm back. Well, I'm back. Well, I'm back in black. Well, I'm back in black. Back in the back of a Cadillac #1 with
ja liigume siis sisse nüüd tagasi ja julgelt üksteise kõrvale.
So, come to the front, sit next to each other.
And those who need translation, don't forget the headphones.
Ma alustan ja siis on.
Nii, minutike veel. Proovime ilusti nüüd saali tagasi tulla ja kõik ära mahutada.
So, I'll give you one more minute to get settled. There are plenty of vacant seats.
Aga ma arvan, et teeme vaikselt algust.
And get started.
Järgmise paneeli teema.
The topic of the next panel discussion is which opportunities does multilingualism provide to people, society and the state? And the introduction will be made by Alika.
Aga vabandust, ma sekkun natuke.
I will just intervene for a second if I may. I was left with the impression during the first and second panel that I should bring in a roll-up that pertains to the topic that we've had up here for years. So here it says that in Narva College everybody has the right to speak Estonian loudly and with mistakes. About half of our students come from Russian-speaking families and they all study in Estonian language. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alika. I'm a singer, a professional singer, musician, and I was born in Narva, right here, well, not right here, but in this town, and I've lived here for 13 years. And I come from a Russian-speaking family, and after kindergarten, when all of my friends went to Russian-speaking schools, then my parents wanted me to go to the Narva Estonian upper secondary school, and I was very young, so I learned quite quickly, and I am very grateful to my parents that I can stand here and speak Estonian fluently because of it. When I was 13 years old, then I moved to Tallinn, and there I decided that I'm not going to go to an Estonian-speaking school because I was afraid that I would be made fun of, and I went to a Russian-speaking school. So I had a break of a couple of years with Estonian, and after that I went to the Georg Ots music school where I studied for a few years. Now the school is called MUBA, Music and Ballet School, and the people who studied with me there and saw me a couple of years later said that, oh, it was you. You were so quiet and introverted and you didn't say much. And I was surprised because I remember that I didn't feel very comfortable there because it always seemed to me that if my mother tongue is not Estonian, then I am worse for it compared to others. But I would say that it's very surprising to hear somebody call me introverted because I never have been. But I think that I had some sort of a complex at the time. But then came the program Estonia is Looking for a Superstar 2021, and I participated for the sake of it, just to showcase my singing skills, not to win. And after a couple of initial rounds, and there were lots of rounds, and it takes a long time to get to the finals. And from the very beginning, I thought that if your mother tongue is Russian, then you're not going to win. And this was my thinking to the very end. I didn't believe that it would be possible. But the team and all the people there supported me so much that there I learned to speak Estonian much more freely, and I started to feel more comfortable. And then, surprisingly, this big competition actually made me open up more. And I personally would say, and I have said it to friends as well, that for me, multilingualism equals opportunities. And though sometimes it is difficult to transition from one language to another, and you don't always comprehend everything 100%, I still believe that it brings lots and lots of opportunities. I speak 4 languages. Russian is my mother tongue, Estonian, English, and Ukrainian. And I would speak German as well, but I cheated so much in class, in school, that unfortunately I didn't learn anything when it comes to German. That's how it is. But basically, on my debut album that was released a couple of years ago, there are 13 songs altogether in 4 languages. So more Estonian and English language songs, 1 in Ukrainian and 1 in Russian. And sometimes it's really difficult to put it all together, to combine it, and to decide what language I'm going to sing in today and what language I'm going to sing in tomorrow. It has little nuances, but I believe that it's always awesome if you speak several languages. And I know that right now there's this difficult transition, especially in Ida-Viru County and Narva. So the transition to Estonian language instruction. It's a difficult phrase, but I think you can understand what I mean, that schools are transitioning to Estonian language instruction. And I understand that it is uncomfortable and stressful from time to time, but I still believe that once the transition period passes, and it will pass, new beginnings are always very difficult. Then later we will all be thinking that it's a thing of pride to be multilingual. I need to phrase that again. I think that when the transition continues, then we will be very proud that we can speak several languages, and that is very important. And that's how it is. Thank you. And now we're going to have a very exciting panel introduced by Daniel Kõiv. But tell us who's going to be on the panel. We have the Minister for Education and Research, Kristiina Kallas, the head of the Narva Estonian Upper Secondary School, Irene Käosaar, Liina Viies from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Rita Niiniste from the European Union Commission Estonian Representation. Welcome on stage. So I understand that I'll be standing, but I would like to continue where Alika left off. So I was asked to present my personal perspectives and the perspectives of the panelists. And what stood out to me was Alika's personal story. It also connects to me. I come from a 2-language family. I'm from the Lasnamäe district in Tallinn, and bilingual family, and I was put in an Estonian kindergarten. So if you think of the value of multilingualism and where Estonian society currently is, we're at a state where last year we started with the transition to Estonian language education, and this is a long-term long-term, cumbersome process where there are Russian speakers, but not just Russian speakers, but kids and youth who don't speak Estonian and have other language backgrounds. We try to provide them the value of multilingualism. Why is it good to understand each other, not only in linguistic terms, but also in terms of values? So how do you see it? If you think to the future, 10 years, and you compare Estonia in 10 years' time to Estonia now, oh, I have a chair. So how do you see this value of multilingualism change in society? Hello, everybody, and I am extremely happy to be here. And the previous speakers have turned to the foreign Estonians, but I would like to say to Narva youth, it's great that you're here and flying the local flag. And as the head of a school, I want to mention my school and our pupils as well. But 10 years ago and 10 years forward, I'm an Estonian philologist, teacher of Estonian, and worked as an Estonian teacher in the Russian speaking school for 8 years, from 92 to 98, in Russian speaking school that was very progressive for the time. So actually in the 90s, some subjects were taught in Estonian, which wasn't compulsory at the time. And rather, this was a rare phenomenon. It definitely wasn't commonplace. So it's not 10-year perspective, it's more. It was a long time ago. But what I see is that in Estonian society, we no longer ask the question, why? Why do you need to learn Estonian? Why do you need to learn in Estonian? Why should you speak Estonian in the Estonian society? Nobody poses this question anymore. Now people ask, what's the best way to learn the language? How is it easiest for the youth? How to support the schools in the best way? So the questions have changed, and this is about attitudes, the shift in attitudes. And as Alika said, I believe that once the transitory period ends and the challenges have been overcome, then we will be very happy with the results. And I do believe in it, and I believe that the transition to Estonian language education will bring about a general shift in attitude towards multiculturalism and multilingualism. Because what are we afraid of? Usually we are afraid of the things we don't know that are foreign to us. If we know the people living next to us and speaking a different language, when we can speak with them in the same language, even some words like tere, like the president said, then there's much less fear and opposition in society as a whole. So, despite the fact that nowadays we all have the apps, and we might say that we don't need to learn languages at all. You learn your mother tongue and then you just use your phone for translating everything. So why learn at all? But you don't need to learn anything at all because everything is on your smartphone. But we can't manage this way. It's the personal relationship, the jokes. Maybe AI at one time will start translating jokes so that they're funny, but right now it's not funny. And when I worked in the Integration Foundation, and then Konstantin Vassiljev visited us, who is one of the best soccer players in Estonia.
Keegi saab aidata. Kai on kõik korras? Okei. Okay, ma jätkan, eks? Jätkan, jah, olgu.
Continue, okay. And he played in Poland, and we asked him that he learned Polish in a few years, and we asked why, because actually your coach spoke to you in English, and he said yes, the training sessions were in English, but I wanted to understand what is going on in the locker room after the game. Can imagine victory or loss, and everybody comes, and nobody, and there's this emotional outburst. This is what mattered to him. He wanted to understand it. And I think in the school system, in the education system, we're also reaching a point where we are going to start valuing this, understanding this, and this challenge, well, not the challenge, but the slogan that you can speak loudly and with mistakes. I think this slogan has reached the Estonian education system as well. It's our paranoid perfectionism that Estonians often use to view the language, but now we rather are friendly and grateful when people want to speak our language, and that's very important in my eyes, the support and the attitudes. Okay, great. I think it's not just linguistic, but also cultural understanding. That English entered my life, and culture as well, which is now very much tied to the youth culture of Estonians. And this came from the Estonian school. I think it would not have reached me in the same way if I had gone to a Russian-speaking school. But on to foreign Estonians, Liina, because we have the Narva Estonian community here, or the youth community from Narva, and foreign Estonian community here. When it comes to multilingualism and multiculturalism, what are the differences and similarities between the local Estonians, local multilingual communities, and foreign Estonians? So you have been heavily engaged in this sector, so can you open this world up to us as well? How different communities see this value in society and as the state? Very philosophical question. Well, actually, there's no big difference. Every language enriches. And from my own experience, I can say that if you speak loudly and with mistakes, as a diplomat, I have served in Poland, in 3 different countries. So Poland, for example, in Finland, I speak Finnish as well, and I've served in Israel, and it's Hebrew there. So actually, whatever country you're in, if you speak the local language, you open doors, you open hearts. You are speaking loud and with mistakes, but you are opening the doors. And then you can do your work very well, tell your story very well. So whether you're a youth here in Estonia, in Lasnamägi district, in Tallinn, or in Narva, the courage you get from learning the language will give you the same opportunities as the youth who are abroad, who speak Hungarian and Estonian and Latin maybe, the same opportunities to open doors in Estonia as well. So if this is what you want, this is your dream, and it opens up these opportunities for you to study or to have a career or to discover something exciting here, or to the contrary, some young people want to go abroad and discover the world. Why am I saying this? For the state, it's very important that people find what moves them, what matters to them. And if they can do it in Estonia, excellent. If they can do it in Silicon Valley, also excellent. Because if you do something that comes from the heart and you reach good results, that enriches you. You will have your own story to tell. You're a little bit of an Estonian, so you can speak about Estonia, you can speak about in Budapest or in Silicon Valley. And in addition, Estonia will gain from it, because I think that door will remain open. You have contacts. You might come up with a good idea. I want to run this business. We have digital state and all these wonderful things. So the ball starts rolling from there. So you asked a philosophical question. It's your fault that I'm speaking in circles. So it doesn't really matter whether it's a youth is growing up abroad or speaks Russian and lives in Estonia, the world is your oyster. Well, philosophical question, but we ended up where I wanted us to end up. So on to Rita. With this discourse, what I've been thinking is that you represent the European Commission, and the value of multilingualism, and as Ala Karis said today, each and every one of us is a beacon of Estonia across the globe, shedding light and explaining Estonia. So multilingualism, expanding on what Liina said, how can that help, or what's the value in being multilingual as a Russian Estonian, as a foreign Estonian, as an Estonian Finn? What's the role of multilingualism in being this beacon? So my name is Rita Niinest, and I represent the European Commission here, and I worked for the Commission as a translator and a language advisor for more than 20 years. And we heard about how sometimes people feel that their language skills are insufficient, or that sometimes people tend to correct your mistakes. Then the European Commission really, truly is multilingual. We have 27 member states and 24 official languages, and they're all working languages, and we always find the common language as well. Usually it's bad English that now has replaced bad French, which was commonplace when I started working there 20 years ago. But the way people actually assess their language skills is very different. So I can encourage you. An Italian says that they speak Spanish when they've never learned it. The languages are similar and they more or less understand what the topic is. And there are countries where people are much more strict with language skills than in Estonia. So the main thing is dare to speak, dare to represent yourself, Estonia, and the details will come along the way. Don't be afraid to speak. For you, sometimes it's surprising in connection to the EU that the image of the EU is that it's lots of red tape. But in fact, the EU for you means very specific practical opportunities. And you can live and work in all member states. And the opportunities you have ever since school, upper secondary school, you can be an exchange student in university, you can use an Erasmus program to study in another country for a semester, or even a shorter period of time. When you have a bachelor's degree, 3 years is enough, 3-year degree, you can do an internship at the EU institutions. And once you have your bachelor's, you can apply to work in the institutions already. And this basic skill you need is language skills to be able to apply. Usually you need to be able to speak English, French, or German at C1 level, and then one more EU language. But mostly that EU language is something you all have already. And it's not somewhere far away in Brussels or Luxembourg. You can do this. All this information is available. I have spread out some brochures on the desk, and you can come up to me and ask how to use these opportunities. It's at the tip of your fingers, and whether you will want to stay abroad or not, it's a very useful thing to do. Live abroad for a while or study abroad for a while, it always works to your advantage. And then, of course, you can be the ambassadors of Estonia, the beacons of Estonia, and represent Estonia everywhere. And the EU is a very special organization which really, truly values all languages. The EU supports the languages of member states' national languages and the dialects as well, Mulgi and Seto, for example, and being from Estonia just means you're a citizen of the EU, have the right to reside, study, and learn everywhere. So you can be a beacon anywhere, as you said. But Kristina, last question of the panel to you, and then we will move on to the audience questions. I have a personal question to you. I think our stories are very similar. Bilingual family in a corner of Estonia that isn't so posh. No, I like Lasnamägi district, but this personal story of growing up in a multicultural bilingual family, how has it helped you get to where you are? And a follow-up question, currently, where you are leading the transition to Estonian language instruction in education, how has it affected you and your work? I will introduce myself because not everybody probably knows me. My name is Kristina Kallas. I'm the Minister for Education and Research. I've been in office for 2 years, and it turns out I've been in office for longer than average. And my personal language story is that I grew up in a bilingual family with 2 languages. My mother is a Russian speaker, does not speak Estonian, and my father is Estonian, but at home the primary language was Russian. Because we lived in a Russian-speaking town in Ida-Viru County, and it was Soviet period, where the status of the Russian language in Ida-Viru County was much, much higher than the status of Estonian language. So it's also about the status of a language. And now this has changed in Ida-Viru County, but I will get to how the status of a language affects bilingual people. When you are using languages that come from home, that you're born with, and at the same time these languages in society, they exist both, they're used both. You have a multilingual society, but these languages have a different status, then it has a great impact on you, how you use these languages and in what situations. And I think there are lots of personal stories on this topic. When I went to Tartu University to study, because I came from a very small town in Ida-Viru County, the Soviet Union had just collapsed. I went to study at Tartu University. Then in Tartu University, the first year, all materials and resources were in English. And I did not speak English, though supposedly I had studied English for 10 years in a Soviet Union school, like your German, that you cheated and you didn't have any contact with this language outside of school. In the Soviet Union, there was no contact with English. It was a theoretical textbook language. And you looked at the pictures and thought, where is this world? But it didn't exist for me because I didn't see it in movies. I didn't see it anywhere. And at Tartu University, I had to read the texts to prepare for exams in English. And I remember that I was sitting with a dictionary. I was crying in the middle of the night, translating with a dictionary to understand the text. Word, and then I understood that the 2 languages I spoke didn't help me at all. The bilingualism seemed useless to me because the language I actually needed to study at university, I didn't command. So in university, it took many years before I graduated and had English at some level. I didn't have a good level of English, and I applied for an English language university, the Soros University in Budapest, gathered up the courage, and the instruction was in English, and had to do the TOEFL language test. And I think I just sort of got through. And I think I was the last one who was admitted to the university course. And that was because of my language skills. My English wasn't as good as that of others. So I'm bilingual and grew up with 2 languages, but learning English, this has really been difficult. And when I was studying there, then we had a writing center there, and the writing center helped all of us with academic English from morning to evening. We had to learn it, we had to practice it, we were corrected. It was quite brutal, the way they taught us English and pushed it on us. But at the same time, it's a shame that they didn't ask us to do anything with Hungarian. So maybe I should have used this year to learn Hungarian as well, but all of my efforts were directed at English. So long story, but I came back to Tartu University for my doctorate, and we just exceeded the EU in 2004, and a certain percentage of subjects had to be transitioned to English in Tartu University so that Erasmus pupils would have subjects they could take. And at the philosophy department, they looked at all the teachers and pointed at me, "You're going to teach in English because you came from Budapest." And I turned white because I understood that I don't have a good relationship with English. I sort of pulled through all of these education institutions with English, but I don't feel good in it. And I started teaching my subjects in English. It was awful. The first semester, I felt completely inadequate. I was reading the text. The words were complicated because they were terms that I hadn't used on a day-to-day basis. So it was all a struggle. But in the end, fast forward to 2025, I speak English on a daily basis. I speak to my husband in English. I write in English. I think in English. I perform in English. So it's sort of a regular language like Estonian and Russian. And I think it's pretty equal to Russian. No, actually, Russian is weaker now. I think it's rather equal to Estonian. So I don't have much of a difference whether I speak English or Estonian. But I'm telling this long story because my story with English is the story that lets me understand what happens to people in Narva, for example, who first have to start studying in a language they don't know very well. I've done it at Central European University. Need to teach in a language that they've never taught in before. I know what it feels like, how difficult it is. And because of this, I have this personal understanding of how difficult it is to transition to Estonian language as instruction. For the kids and for the teachers, I understand it very well, but my personal experience also says that at one point it will pass and you won't be able to tell that you had this difficulty. You have to start remembering it. And the story of Narva College is the same. When I came, I was the director of Narva University from 2015 to 2019. This poster is from my era. And Narva students came to me and they knew that I spoke Russian. So the first sentence was, "Oh, excuse me, can I speak to you in Russian?" And I said, "No." And they were like, "Why? Why not?" And I said, "Because I'm one of the few people here in Narva whom you can speak to in Estonian." And then they apologize that they're not able to, and they have grammar mistakes, and it sort of repeated and repeated. And I thought I will put up this slogan in Narva College that you're allowed to speak Estonian in a loud voice with mistakes. Nobody's going to give you a bad grade because of it if you speak Estonian here, because here we have people you can speak Estonian too, because you might not have these people in Narva at home or on the street. And all subjects transitioned to Estonian in 2016, because up until then most subjects were taught in Russian. Some people left work at the college, felt insulted, refused to teach in Estonian. We had to find new teachers. Had the same with pupils in the back row. We had pupils who refused to study in Estonian, and many of them left. And at first, quite many dropped out, but now, 8 years later, Indrek, as the head of the college, you probably would think it's very weird. You can't remember that all subjects used to be taught in Russian here. So again, this is something you do through difficulties, and later you think, why was it different before? Why did I use a different language? But this is a very long answer from me.
First, my comment is that I would like to thank all the previous directors, including Kristina. And Narva College is one of the bubbles in Narva city, which is in Estonian. And sometimes there are suspicions that some things are taught in Russian, so secretly, but this is not definitely something we would favor. So if we were to find out, then we would not allow it. But now I would continue. I will have 10 minutes, and let's take questions from the audience as well. So you will have QR code here. So So this is how we can do it as well. So please raise your hand if you have a question. We have a first person here. And please address it to a certain person. And introduce yourself. My name is Alex. I come from Switzerland. I'm 25. I speak French, German, Estonian, and English. And my question is for Rita. You said that the European Parliament, there are different languages available. So do you also have a problem that you change your sort of internal language and sometimes the wrong language comes out? Well, yes, it's the European Commission, but that's not important. So it's not so at work, because if I communicate in English with my colleagues, then this is what I'm using. If I talk to Estonians, then this is what I use. Sometimes French. Then I have to sort of focus a bit. But I would say that this is more of I don't really know what it is. Maybe we have had different descriptions and opportunities how to start the sentence in one language and end in another. But when it comes to work, then it's sort of it works itself out that you sort of maybe getting into a role, and your role is in English at that moment, and so your brain switches to that language, or it's in Estonian, then it's the language you use. But it's an international working environment. It's very good because everybody speaks some language which is not maybe their first language to have. So there is a sort of good understanding of it. So nobody would ever tell you that, oh, you said something wrong now. So people understand and they manage. And of course, there are all the possibilities. If you have to write an email, then the robot is going to do it for you and fix your mistakes. But still, I would like to encourage you all to study all the languages and not to rely on machines doing the languages for us. So ability to speak several languages develops your brain, and machines can't replace that. I'll take a question here. So what do you think, what are the skills or the characteristics which makes you an Estonian? It's not only language. So I think that understanding who's the right Estonian, who's a true Estonian is a question. It's a difficult question, but I would say that maybe it's different for everyone, because we're all very different. And I think if we were to ask people here, what does it mean to be an Estonian? I think we'll get as many answers as people are in the room, maybe anthem and symbols and loving Estonia and all that. But I think that this is very personal. It's the identity which is very personal. And it was said before that it's I come from a bilingual family. My mother is also Russian and father is Estonian. And I have always been speaking two languages. So it's a very personal question. So it's not quite 50-50, am I, and what half, is it right or left side is which language, but this is so very personal. And I guess there is some sort of knowledge which supports it, because a loving home and missing home, what we have, it's fairly mystical, because in the Integration Foundation, Kaira is also helping us with foreign Estonian topics. So if there are questions asked, why do people come back to Estonia? So people who have moved away from Estonia, why do they come back? So one thing is that you're missing home. How can you explain that you're missing home when you actually never lived here. So yes, indeed, I've got my family and friends here, but missing home is kind of weird because you might not have any family or friends here, but you still miss Estonia. Education is one of the reasons when the children are starting to go to school, then we want to come back so our children would study in Estonia. So I'm not saying that you have to raise a flag or sing the anthem every morning. There can be important points for when it comes to being an Estonian. So we value our nation, the statehood or the land and what's happening here. But in reality, I think that if you internally you feel that you are Estonian, then this is. I agree that Alar Karis the president has said that we all are Estonia. The stories are shared. We all carry some Estonia with you. But if you have the flag and the anthem and the herring sandwich every morning, then it's definitely Estonian.
Nii, seal on üks küsimus, Noora juba jookseb. Kui siin ees ei olnud, et okei.
Aitäh. Irene, sina mainisid,
Irene, you mentioned that people don't ask you why we're studying Estonian. You ask how people study Estonian, but maybe we should ask again why we're studying it. Especially in Narva, when considering the transition, and maybe for foreign Estonians, it might be important to know. Why do you think we are studying Estonian?
Muidugi laiendaks, te võite kahe peale näiteks vastata, ma arvan, teil on ühiselt lisada sinna päris palju.
Jaa. No kindlasti see, miks Narvas noored.
So why in Narva young people are studying Estonian? So if they want to be a part of the society, this country where they're growing up, then this is not possible in Estonia anymore. So this is the pragmatic side of things, because if you want to have a university education or labor market, you don't have many possibilities without Estonian. So all of this is a very pragmatic side. Now, in this sort of idealistic side of things, and maybe from the foreign Estonians' point of view, because foreign Estonians don't need all this, especially if you're not planning to come and live here, then I believe it is a great privilege to be part of such a small nation where there's so few speakers. So you're one of the carriers of this language. I believe this is sort of sense of kinship. We all want to have a sense of belonging. So if it is important for us to be one of the Estonians, then language is the connection. Because there are huge differences in different nationalities, because I've been to Kazakhstan a lot. So many of the Kazakhs, most of them don't speak the language at all, but they're very patriotic. So it has completely different elements there. Something which they would consider to be part of their culture. For us, it is the language. It is important. So I believe that this sense of kinship and membership, or this privilege or the pride to be part of such a small cultural area. But in Estonia, I would say that it would be pretty much impossible to live in Estonia with comfort and not to be trapped in a language that I can't go anywhere, I can't do anything because I don't speak the language, and to make my own choices. So it's not really possible. And I believe that every young person deserves all these opportunities. We had midsummer and we had 3 ministers who were abroad and could not celebrate. So we were in Saaremaa Island, we were grilling the sausages, and we felt that they were Estonians because we could be in Estonia and 3 ministers had to be abroad. Christina, same questions. Why do we need to speak Estonian? Irena talked about the personal view, and we should add something which makes us all happy. Scientifically, it's been proven that multilingualism, in addition to the language skills, gives you advantages for cognitive skills. So what is the advantage for a multilingual person? In the frontal cortex, where there's a central control mechanism for emotions and switching, an ability to move from one thought to another. So this ability is better for multilingual people. It is developed much earlier, and you might lose it because cognitive skills are weakened when you get older. So multilingual people, this kind of cognitive impairment happens later. So if you're not multilingual, well, you all of course are, but to speak many languages is possible every day because it keeps this cognitive skills, which helps you with the memory. And so this is a scientific proof. If somebody says, why you want to be multilingual here in Narva, then I think this is one of the reasons. But from the societal point of view, democratic system cannot function without a common language. So this we, the people, so we're the ones who are the carriers of the power, have to be able to communicate because their shared common space where we come to an agreement has to function in the same language. It cannot function otherwise. And concern with Estonian democracy has been that Estonian and Russian speakers do not have a common space where they could function. So the democracy doesn't function because dialogue, a common understanding does not happen. And we have a separate group of people in Estonia who communicate with each other, but who are not communicating with the majority, and the majority only communicates with each other. So there's a big democracy deficit in this kind of society because we don't have a common language. So this is now from the politology point of view, why in the state we have people who are citizens who are implementing their rights. They need to understand each other. So we have the last question. My question is, when it comes to the multilingualism with foreign Estonians, is it a threat to the Estonian language? And would multilingualism make it difficult to have integration in Estonian? So it's a two-part question. Half a minute each.
Taimeri panna.
Sa ilmselt pead seda tegema.
Ma teen taimeri, aga alustamegi siit poolt. Ja taimer...
Start here. Multilingualism is not a problem for integration. And is it a threat for Estonian language? No, it's not going to be a threat for Estonian language. Should I justify? 23 seconds. So people who speak more than one language, they have a better understanding of the culture and they understand the cultural diversity as well. So it has a value. It's not going to be an obstacle for anyone. So that your opportunities expand, your ability to understand other people is also wider, so it's not going to be a threat for the Estonian language. But the state language is something else. Every language has its own nuances and opportunities, and I think language sometimes becomes fun because another language would influence the main language. If you talk about the language buddy, my language buddy is a young man from Pakistan who lives in Estonia, whose mother tongue is Urdu. So every now and then we find some details of the language because the cultural space is different. So it's only enriching for the integration. So we have a timer going on now, 30 seconds. It is not a threat, and I would say something that Kristina already mentioned, which is the status of the language. Because more people speak Estonian and more people use, even if it's not correct, they speak Estonian, then the higher the state of the language is for outside Estonia and also inside Estonia, because so you can be very proud to go to Canada or Sweden, Australia or somewhere else, and you can hear Estonian language. It's not always perfect from the linguistic point of view, but this is something which creates this sense of pride. So it's not a threat. And no language is ever a threat, because if you study another language, it's not a threat for any other languages, but it's supportive. but more people we have speaking the language, stronger we are. So it's not a threat, but it's empowerment. So I tend to speak a lot. So we had a discussion before the panel about the timing as well. But Kristina, half a minute. But I have nothing to add because never a threat. We knew that because that paradigm which says in order to learn one language, you would have to discard another language. For example, Seto dialect was discarded because it was considered to be harmful for the Estonian language study. But this has been myth has been busted. One language doesn't disturb another. So humans are multilingual creatures. When I look at the neurological development, we're capable of talking in many languages, and there's never a threat. And I would add that if I didn't speak Estonian, my mother would have never learned Estonian. So I got Estonian through my grandparents, and now my mom speaks Estonian. And this last question, what do you think is the situation with the transition to Estonian language? Do the children have a right to use their native language during the breaks, talking to other children who speak other language than Estonian? And I can answer that, yes, indeed, your language will survive. But Kristina can confirm. Yes, if you forbid it, then it comes from this obsolete understanding that you're not allowed to speak Russian because it would not allow you to acquire Estonia, but that's completely obsolete. It's been also busted. So the students from Narva in the first row here, because we have 90% Russian native speakers. So do we have Russian during breaks? And the answer is yes. Nobody's prohibiting you. So, and 100% Estonian language studies, but breaks, because I go and, well, they should be speaking Estonian to their friends, but often they don't do that, so promote that. But I'll be very proud to say, and I'm very grateful that these young people, they are speaking Estonian to each other on ESTO festival, and they have made this promise that they will speak Estonian. I remember all that. Let's take this last question as well. I was already told that time is up. I wanted to add, because we are in Narva, but maybe we didn't touch this subject, that Estonians in Narva, who are also Estonians, who speak Estonian, well, there are so few of us. So maybe due to the transition, so when I started my education, it was very hard to find Estonian language environment, because my mom is Estonian, my father is Russian, and I'm bilingual. We had only one Estonian language kindergarten, but my mom saw the building and said, no, I'm not going to go there because it was in such a bad state. But now, this same kindergarten has a new building, so the transition is very important. Because even now, I study in gymnasium, in an Estonian language gymnasium, but we have now over 90% people whose home language is Russian. But this transition brings this sort of cultural understanding. So I thought about it during these discussions, and I recall as recently one of my classmates came to me who comes from a Russian-speaking family. And the background is that I'm in a team of a festival in Narva, station Narva. And he came to me and we started to talk about music, new Estonian artists, and then I would have never expected, and he said, can you get these Estonian performers to come to Station Narva, because I never expected him to listen to this kind of music with Estonian performers. So the transition means that they get to know Estonian language culture as well. I think this is a beautiful end to this discussion. We hopefully see this artist in Station Narva. And now we have the last Slido. So talking about these opportunities. which you feel will have due to multilingualism and Estonian. So what are the doors open to you by multilingualism? You can answer this question now.
Sõbrad.
Natuke nagu see, mida rahvas ütleb.
Sobib, me pärast teeme Vox Populi siit. See ongi Vox Populi, siis teeme Rooside sõja ja siis rohkem.
There's Vox Populi and then we have the War of Roses. So more work, icebreaker, new experiences, friends again, citizenship, access to different countries, education, and new friends, career, opens the world, parents. Grandparents, so you opens the front door. So you can always come to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So it's clear that there are many possibilities. We can talk about other people without them understanding. So it's a secret language, which can be dangerous. Thank you very much, Daniel. Let's thank our speakers. I would like to thank Daniel as well. And let's go back to the Youth Congress slide. You have ESTO souvenirs as well. I just don't have it right now. So we can't leave before you get the souvenirs. And now I would like to give the floor to Mikkel to conclude. So first of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming here, because we have so many people from different countries who have all come together who would have never maybe met. We have people from Canada, from Sweden, from Switzerland, from Hungary. It's amazing that all these people came together here. And we were able to all enjoy our time here. And we had some interesting thoughts expressed here, how the Estonian language could be studied, and mostly what we came up with is that we have to practice. So we have to have a courage to speak Estonian to each other, and you should not be afraid of making mistakes. So this is perfectly normal, and don't worry about mistakes. And one thing which was also noticed that because when you know that these myths have been debunked, that the one language will disturb another. We know we're all multilingual people here. And there was another myth, so that you mix the languages when you're still learning. And my cousin said that the Estonian language is a grandmother. It's not an Estonian language, but it's a grandmother language, because I only could speak with a grandmother. So when people want to say that Estonian is all the scary and difficult, it's not, because we can study it. I had a friend in Canada who was not even Estonian, but he really learned Estonian very well, because there are tools for doing it. As we've seen, we have the global school, Keeleklikk, Keelesamm, Keelelend is coming up, I heard. And also wanted to add that there are many other opportunities as well. For example, Vene language camp. And there is also an adult camp in August. And so there are some free places. So it's 18 till... No? These are the dates. And so what happens next? One of the most important things is that we have some elections coming up with the Global Estonians, so you can join, and in your own society you can create your Estonian organization. So where you usually would not have an organization, but it's a possibility to meet people. So to get these groups of people together, so you can speak Estonian, go to a cafe, so the language cafe things, and so this is possible for you to do. So to express interest of their language and continue it together. I would also like to say a few things. Now, why my face is here, that was a choice of my mom. She called and said, look at this poster. I said, why? I know that the poster is going to be very nice. And she said, no, look at it. And then I found that my face was there. So now I see it everywhere. And then she said, but there is a point there, because you are one of the examples, because you are in front of Narva College, where we Sirle went to prepare for ESTO. And she explained it, why it's my face. Not because she's my mom, because for her, I'm the closest face to multilingualism, because I grew up in Sweden. I speak Swedish, so the Swedes don't understand that I'm an Estonian. I speak Estonian well enough so that people don't understand that I grew up in Sweden. I also speak English and French somehow. But I feel that I can travel between Estonia and Sweden so that my home is in the other country. So I move from one place to another, but my home remains. I'm the key to the society. So I understand everything. I feel I don't have to adjust to adapt, but I feel that I'm free. I can do what I want, act and develop, and find friends. When it comes to challenges,
one
of the happiest moments in my life was that 6 years ago, before the previous ESTO, we established the Estonian Youth in Sweden organization, and some of the people who are here as youth delegates with us are active ENR members, and some of them I thought would never speak Estonian, because I spoke Estonian and this person only answered in Swedish, but now they're here and speaking Estonian. But they needed the environment for it and the opportunity and friends, and this is what ENR offered. It's not that we just sit together and study grammar, but we play volleyball together, we organize events together, we go to different events together and just communicate. And that was also my message here, that this global Estonian youth network is a platform to create opportunities to use language, and these opportunities can take the form of organizations. Mikael is about to establish an organization, but it can just be a place with some people who meet up. And this is all I wanted to say. And thank you very, very much for coming to speak here, and thank you for participating actively at our Youth Congress. Thank you very much.